I want to share a quick note about the difference between unhealed and healed, and then dark and light when it comes to feminine and masculine, because I use these words a lot, and I'm realizing that a person could misunderstand, and I think a lot of people can explain things in a way that can be misconstrued, including myself. So I'm going to clear it up. I think long ago in a video I referred to dark feminine, and I used Angelina Jolie as an example because she's like a killer in a lot of her roles, because she's like an action leading lady, but still, and this is actually a segue to a long forgotten thing that I was going to explore around subliminal programming and hidden in plain sight stuff. And it's an unsung hero in between good and bad trope that's kind of like hard to put a finger on. So I'm actually going to do a blog post about it instead of going on that tangent now. So look to the blog for that in the next few days. But I think about certain archetypal energies, and then we think about the goddesses. There's lots of different goddesses. People think of goddesses of beauty like Aphrodite and Venus, and then they think of, well, there's all different eras of archetypes. So then thinking about, like Jesus and Mother Mary, or like Lilith, or Kali Ma, or in Egypt times Isis, or, Vishnu. There's all these different archetypal god and goddess energies, and they are both dark and light. There are very strong destructive forces in the energy that is of duality. It's a lot of Buddhist imagery coming to my mind, and I encourage anybody who doesn't know about the cycles with the Kali Yuga to research that and look into that, because that's what's coming to a crashing end here. I tend to talk a lot about, I think, Christian language, inadvertently always Buddhist language, but I'm ironically much less studied in the Buddhism, because I also have a lot of past life Christian information from within that comes up through channeling, not to mention the influence of saints and information. So almost, and now I'm seeing memes about like integrating the shadow self, turning demons into daemons, like harnessing the wild parts within yourself, because you are a reflection of the whole, and there is both good and bad in the world. There is both light and dark, and so that's the whole know thyself thing. And if we think about Mother Nature, like the wrath of nature and storms, but also the water cycle and the balance within that, and how to not acknowledge the dark and the light within things is to deny the cyclical truth of the world and the patterns of the universe that we live in and can acknowledge. And then because of all that different kind of, archetypal energy, all different cultures throughout all time have acknowledged. Our world today acknowledges it the least. That's why we've been in the dark times. It's what's being brought back online from ancient wisdom and knowledge to be reintegrated and acknowledged, and that's why things are turning on their heads in order to achieve that, because it is highlighting just how far we have strayed from it. And so there's sort of an issue with the glorification of the dark feminine on the world stage, but it's not the healed dark feminine, To be a healed woman, it's not that you're always nice. You're not always perfectly kind. I mean, I guess this is and by that I don't mean the opposite is mean. I just mean the opposite is you're not making concessions as a pushover, right? You embody what it is you need to embody to protect and walk in your truth. It's not a defensive stance because it is the way that you are. From arriving at a place that's more rooted in awareness. And in my most recent video, I talked about, the full moon reading that I uploaded about an hour ago. I kept saying, stay in the present moment, stay in the present moment. And that is about pure awareness. Because if I say that and it falls on deaf ears, because we do hear people say that a lot, like, oh, it's, the present is a gift. How do you do that? You know, if you're doing that, if you're noticing what's going on around you. If you're amongst people, then it has to do with, truly listening and paying attention instead of skipping to what it is that you want to say, or, planning ahead or getting distracted. It's being present to what's happening. But if you're alone, it becomes being witness to what's in your own mind. And that is what most humans do not want to have to tolerate, and therefore get into these codependent cycles, either with substances or humans or ways of spending time. And our society is literally selling as many of them as they can to us in all different ways that feed on and block the chakras in a very specific way. And all our needs are therefore met. But if we didn't need to run away from that stillness that becomes filled with the contents of our own mind that possesses both dark and light, then that is how the boiling water becomes calm and still. And a lot of people deny that their water is boiling, but their level of engagement with things that are not good for them, be it people, thought patterns against themselves, and like self-criticality, or toxic, engagements of behavior and whatnot. So I just want to make that distinction that there is a lot of very powerful, Kali Ma is the blue-skinned goddess of destruction. I don't know if I've shared this story before, so I will tell it now, because it was about a year and a month ago, and I did a meditation with her energy facilitated by Erica Lopez, who runs the YouTube channel Gypsy Cowgirl Tarot. She's an excellent reader and a gifted psychic oracle. And it was a group meditation, and I had written out a list of things personally, privately, to release that I knew were holding me back, patterns that I watched myself do time and time again. And I said, I know that I have to break out of this. Yet that awareness itself and everything that's brought, being able to tolerate new layers of what that means and how it's affected my life, still I can't do it. We reach these plateaus where we're like, I need assistance. And this is why I pray. This is why I invoke the energy of the ascended masters that do not walk on the earth anymore, but whose energy is remembered, right, by many, and told of and shared and accessed, actually, because they're not on this plane. But when we do not die and you affect the earth in a certain way, your energetic legacy, right, there's a lot of energies that are kind of ever-present, omnipresent within the energies of earth. But I asked her to help me with these things, and I didn't expect it to go this way, but it was like a serious vision. It wasn't like my usual sort of montages and dashboards of being able to kind of swipe through things and scan around. It was like a like how it is for Eleven in Stranger Things when she goes into that reflective darkness and kind of walks through. It's like the floor is like a reflective surface of water, but everything's black all around her. I was in the sunken place, really, but it was meditative. And then Kali Ma's kind of a horrifying, if you Google images, there's lots of artistic depictions, but that is how she looked. She has yellow eyes and they were glowing. It was like a cat walking up to me. But then she came in like really quickly, like with lots of smoke as well, lots of clouds, but they were dark blue, royal blue, like that glowing cobalt that I love. That is very good for throat chakra clearing, because Kali Ma, right, wouldn't give a fuck. She would state her truth. And can help with feminine energy throat chakra healing. But the approach was very ominous, even though it's a powerful, positive energy because of what it lets you do, right? Sometimes in life we have to do hard things or destroy certain aspects of ourselves that have been built through the pain that we've endured, right? Just because we've endured something doesn't mean we need to have, those cinder blocks that we put up at the time that were necessary still like erected and in the embodiment of a new version. In fact, it's like the building and the destruction of that in a quantum manner simultaneously that allows you to remain healed. So think of it as like a masonry skill set energetically to kind of, it's not that you're not touched by the trials of life, it's that you build the defenses, right? By setting the boundaries, exercising throat chakra, standing in your truth, and then you decompress that. You're not wounded, right, by these things, nor do you intend to wound others. It's like a navigability. The Kali Ma, the smoke and the energy, just to throw another visual out there, I was deeply, deeply fearful as a child of the scene from James and the Giant Peach, where I think his parents get eaten by a rhino that comes out of the clouds. That sounds insane, so I might be wrong, but that is what I'm seeing. And that's how it felt. That is what happens. Or maybe it's that they get killed in a storm or something, but I legitimately thought when I was a child that the sky rhino ate them. That's kind of how she approached too, if you've ever seen that movie. So, by the way, this is really insane. I'm not sure why I'm remembering this. I mean, obviously it's connected, but I am compelled to share it. So the day that 9/11 happened, I remember that very, very specifically. I was 6, and the teachers, we were in our little morning meetings, sitting in a circle on the ground, and we had a collection of four different classrooms that made up our little team. And so all the team teachers like stepped out, and then they had us kids go into one room and turned all the lights off, and we were sitting on the ground all together watching one of those TVs that, back in the early 2000s, it would just be like an enormous box of a TV strapped to a rolling trolley. And we were all watching James and the Giant Peach on that TV that morning. But I remember being like, the vibe is off, ladies. You have not told us something. So I was watching them. They were in the background, watching us behind the TV, and us kids watching the TV. I was watching their faces, and they were all chatting, stepping out into the hallway chatting. But anyway, Kali Ma comes up, and she takes the list, which I had physically written. I was sitting in my bed with like a notebook and stuff, taking notes on these group meditations that we were doing, because this was only one very small part of a pretty long workshop, actually. And I generate, if I ever do a group type of workshop, I generate just a massive amount of notes. I'll be like done at the end of 2 hours or something, or 3 hours, and I'll go through it, and it's like 18 to 30 pages of notes. It's crazy how quickly the influence of other people's energy in a safe, focused session like that can amplify my energies too, especially if I'm not processing via channel or speech, and it's just, rapid note-taking and whatnot. But so she kind of takes the list up like it's a immediately transmitted document in her realm, or in the realm of my visioning in this space. And it looks like it's already been like aged. Like my notebook looks one way. I wrote what I wrote. But she's got like an ancient document that looks like a scroll, yet it says the same stuff that I wrote. Like it's been through a lot, and I get the word like exhausted again. Like it's an exhausted way of being, and it's an exhausted way of doing things. If it was a piece of paper lying on your tabletop or wherever items collect within your home, there's like common surfaces where all our crap goes that tend to get more cluttered more quickly. If it was like a little piece of garbage laying there, unless it was like a important document, you would discard it. You don't need it. It's seen its day. That's kind of how she held it up in front of me. And then she like pulverized it, and it wasn't quite fire because it was like a lightning. And I'm seeing dragons now. So it was a force unknown to this realm. I forget where I heard this, but somebody's told me that fire was a gift from a different realm, really, elementally. If we think about the potential for different kinds of elemental chemical interaction in this realm. Well, I'm not going to actually go on this tangent right now, but I'm thinking about the energetics of that and interactions at different layers and levels. Because here's the thing, we're not familiar. If this is the third dimension, we are highly unfamiliar with the third dimension. I mean, really, truly, as far as other planets, I'm not going to go into talking about space exploration and my thoughts about that. I'm sure if you've listened to me for long enough, then you would be able to infer those beliefs, because a lot of people feel similarly who deal with spiritual things about how space exploration is documented and handled in today's world, without going further. But there is more to be known about how certain things behave, right? And just all the beautiful natural mysteries of what we do see, lightning and the sun, and black holes. So her force and her ability fell somewhere between lightning and fire. And it was, oh, by the way, though, do think about what we see in the movies then, like special abilities that fall somewhere else and how all that's portrayed. I'm adding that on to the thing that I'm going to continue at a different time as far as minerals and chemicals and magic and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my Kali Ma example. She helped me move past that stuff, and it really was an assistive thing, because for my brain, if you think about this, it's the same logic and reasoning behind why manifestation works and vision boarding and all that stuff, because your brain does not know the difference if you choose to take 5 minutes out of the day and go sit in a quiet room. But in your mind, you convince yourself that you're hearing, not seagulls, but like a tropical breeze or, beach stuff, whatever you want. Seagulls would be there. So yeah, I'm seeing them as trying to take your sandwich or something, and we don't want that, but they're not a bad bird. So it's like the stimulus that you can intake through what you actually experience is equally weighted in the nervous system as something that you convince yourself by thinking about the sensory experience. And I'm thinking about that book that I put on the recommendations tab of the website. It's called You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's like we convince ourselves into our circumstances much of the time, and we're convinced that the world convinces us of our circumstances and that they're non-negotiable. But this is connected to what is really going to start to kind of hit the fan in the second quarter of the year, and in my understanding of the energy so far, because of this incontestable correlation between that feedback loop with the internal monologue and correlatory vibration. In short, your thoughts become things. That correlation to the manifested world is, I think everybody's going to realize that. That's what I'm starting to see in here as I sit here now. Just like I'm seeing, well, think about it this way. Since the 90s, that's kind of the dawn of the New Age spiritual movement. And then there's been all these different things that have happened along the way. And as more and more people come to certain levels of consciousness, then it's like how fire spreads, right? It catches more quickly. So you could see it as the complete and total, I don't know what the right word is, and I'm not being given it, but I see a level up. I see like a mechanical, what is this called? Assembly line, but it's like an industrial thing. Something that's moving something along automatically. So there's a certain level within what one could call the ascension journey, because it's a grand cosmic clockwork shift that is affecting everybody, but not everybody is on the same page. So when people talk about the masses or how this is going to affect the masses, and I said this in my 2024 forecast video, but that unto itself is a challenging thing to talk about, because there are layers. There are so many layers to how people are taking up space in the world and within their own energy these days. There's broad and general categories and stuff, but it's going to be a pretty big jump where, for a lot of people who do manifestation and spiritual work, all of the understanding between, all of these fields, kind of no matter where your journey starts or when it started, these things begin to blur together, like healing and psychology and the ancient stuff. I mean, it's not just like, I think people know this, but it's not like all my random interests, it's really just, I think, the synthesis of integrated theories at all, if you're at all interested in it. It's kind of where we find ourselves together, right? And then the quadrivium around frequency. So music, math, vibration, and all of that are in geometry. So I'm going to end the recording so I don't go on too much of a tangent, because I wanted this to be a quick thought, but I just want for people to know that sometimes there's, never feel like you're alone for having dark, complicated aspects, because that's a reflection of collective energy. And the more we can allow ourselves to work through those and detangle those, and recognize why they were there, what I talked about before with like building defenses and being able to break them down. Because here's an example. This is really common. Narcissistic abusers, their victims will, if they do not understand what has happened to them, a lot of people, if they're abused by a narcissist, then they use that as an excuse to not heal because they went through something, and what they tend to go through is very challenging. But it's ironic because they may tend to take on traits of being narcissistic and unwilling, right? Having excuses for things and almost manipulating their reality, and therefore offering a manipulation to others. And that's a challenging dynamic, because people can be have been victimized, right? And hurt. That can be true, but you can also keep yourself there without realizing it. And then when you carry that pain with you, it's part of the way that people experience your energy. So need to transmute. It was 2222 when I looked up. That's 44, and that resolves down to 8, which was a prominent number in the full moon reading I just posted. So those are just some extra thoughts, and I'm sending everybody good vibes. And email me if you'd like to know about, I don't know, I could just probably come up with a long list of all different kinds of, this is actually just a good idea to put on the recommendations page, right? Different kinds of, like, it could be a recommendations list of links. Well, they'd be hyperlinked, but it would be like gods and goddesses, different religions, different mythologies where you could click and go to learn about them. I'd probably learn a lot just by putting that together, because different energies kind of come to me through different times. I was very, very connected to certain Hindu and Buddhist energies in my early 20s, like Ganesha, and I still am, but don't have as much of that. And then archangels, there's a lot of different stuff. So anyway, that's it. All right.